I'm Stefan Baumann. I would like to invite you on a special journey to discover the splendor, encounter the grandeur, feel the excitement. Come along with me as we experience the thrill of painting outdoors. A 3-day journey that will change your art forever. In one of America's most stunning locations, Mount Shasta. Everything you need to know is on our website, www.stefanbaumann.com. Did everybody think of at least 5 questions? Yeah. So everyone's got them. Now, some of the questions might repeat themselves, like, boxers or briefs. So, if I've already answered the question, we'll go, okay, we got that. And you can cross one off if you've got it, or you can add one while you're listening to it saying, okay, that one was answered, but then if there's another question that pops up, go ahead and ask those questions. So, where should we start? Sharon?
Okay, how do I get my hand to create what I see in my mind's eye? Because sometimes they don't communicate.
How do I get my hands to cooperate with my with what I see? Alcohol.
It will warm you and it'll steady.
It will warm you, will steady your hand. No, it's actually a pretty good question, because that's kind of where I do a lot of my teaching. So. How do you get your brain and your hand to work together and what you see? So you have 3 things. And so painting consists of seeing something, processing it, and then delivering it to your hands. And the thing, actually, what you don't want to do is spend so much time in here. You want to actually see it and produce it. Our brains are very busy, complicated things. And oftentimes what happens in here is multiple conversations all at once, although you could only do one thing at a time. So women are really good at having micromanaged stuff, so that they can answer the phone and knit and do stuff. But the thought process is that when you finally get to that tunnel of thought where you're actually thinking of that thing, there's only one thing that can go through that moment. You can't think of 2 things at the same time. The great thing about women is that they can pop in and out of those streams on and on. Men, they kind of like fall into it, and then they climb themselves back out again. It's like if you try to ask a man a question while they're watching television, they either have to stop listening to the TV and literally turn their brain off so that they can open up another channel so they could go, "What did you say?" Yeah, because where women can boom, they can get the micromanage, and that's part of our upbringing from cavemen thing, because women had to be constantly aware that there was a lion at the door, and so they had their kids, they had their thing and stuff, but they still had, so they couldn't dwell on it. But men, they had to go hunting, and they stayed on the course of that deer until they shot it, and then they had to find their way home, and that was pretty much all they did. What you want to do is you want to get your eye-hand coordination quick. And oftentimes, when we use our left side of the brain, we process things, and we hold the brush this way when we paint. And the thing is, when you hold your brush this way, it's the same way as if you were going to do some write a check or your signature or write something. So this actually triggers the brain, the left side of the brain, that you're going to do a calculation or a thought. When you hold your brush this way, it actually opens up the channel easier. And the reason for that is that just how you hold your hand, and this was a big discussion, I had brought it up in one of my YouTube videos, and there's a big discussion about, the wet canvas, their discussion board. And somebody had told me, they said, they're talking about you on wet canvas. And I said, oh my God, I wonder what they're saying. But there was some doctors that were chiming in saying he's probably right. I know it's right, but if you talk to artists and you watch artists paint, they usually hold the brush this way in their hand. Okay, and the reason for that is that it's not turning the brain on to think. It's actually telling the brain to not think. And so when you think about the things that you do with your hands this way, you're usually in your right brain and you don't know it. Because what do you do when your hands are this way? You're brushing your teeth. Now, I don't know anybody that really sits there and counts how many times they go up and down and they're aware of what they're doing when they're brushing their teeth. They're usually thinking about what they're going to do during the day, and the only thing they think about is, I got to get this over with so I can move on. And so they're usually like, not very present. Also, when you're driving, you have your hands this way on the steering wheel, where's your head? Most of the time somewhere else. I mean, it's scary when you think about when you go drive somewhere, you can't remember how many stop signs you've stopped at. You literally are checked out. So just changing your brush in your hand would make a totally different effect in your brain. And practice. And you haven't been practicing so much lately, and you're a little more rusty. Yeah, so what's your next question? I'll go faster on some of these.
I noticed yesterday I was flipping my brush around a lot. Do this, and then I say, this is wrong. Felt uncomfortable, and I would change it.
Yeah, so if you're not painting like this, try it. Okay. What's your next question? We'll go quicker on them.
Okay, so yesterday when you primed that, you used that Mirage, is that how you pronounce it?
The what?
The medium that you used.
Oh, the Mirage or medium, yeah.
So I don't do well with liquid or any of those that have that odor to it.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do that to my canvases, is there a medium I can use that's not going to have that odor, that's going to do the same thing?
You could use our Mona Lisa brand or the Gamsol and put some linseed oil in it.
Oh, just add linseed?
Yeah, linseed oil. You don't want to use all linseed oil because that would make it kind of seal and sticky. It's usually the recipe is 2 to 1, 2 terps, 1 linseed oil. 2 Gamsols, 2 turpentine. Yeah, how do you paint faster? Practice.
Just practice.
Practice, yeah. And the thing is, what I also suggest too is people, first you have to have, and we'll talk about this, we'll go through you have to have a concept. When you have the concept, like we started here, you have the concept and then you chunk it and you do big, bold sections. And when you're putting together a painting, you want to kind of think about 4 different chunks. So you think about the sky, the mountain, 3 or 4, and these are value chunks. So this would be 1 value, 2 value, 3 value, 4 value. 4 is average, 5 is getting close to too many, and 3 doesn't quite have enough. But if you break things up into 4 value chunks, like the sky, the mountain, and you saw me break this up into big chunks, and then go into smaller chunks and smaller chunks, it will speed you up. But you kind of have to work on everything at one time. And then what happens is that once you lay this in, it kind of looked like a sloppy mess. And then all of a sudden when you start putting in the highlights and work on the central focal point, all of a sudden all that other stuff doesn't matter. And if you start from the center focal point and work out, you don't even have to finish the rest of the painting, which we saw with Lisa's painting, is that she started off the painting and it was half done. And I said, get into the central focal point and don't worry about the rest. And then when we were doing the critique, everybody was looking at a finished painting, and I said, did you notice that the painting was half done? And everybody was like, oh no, it didn't even dawn on you. So don't worry about everything in the painting. Just get into what the painting's about, the center focal point, and work out. And after 2 hours, just stop. people will think you're a loose painter, but you actually just are slow. You just haven't finished it. You're dealing with a lot of things. Part of it is addiction, and part of it is ego.
Ego.
Okay. The addiction part of it is that being a victim is actually causing you to have people show up in your life a certain way, and you want them to feel that way towards you, and you're addicted to that feeling that people give you. So it's like love. Are we really in love with somebody, or are we addicted to the feelings that that person gives us, the chemicals that are produced in our body? So when we want to love somebody, is it about us, or is it about us in them? We're addicted to the chemicals that love gives us. That's why we want to be in love. And the same thing with being a victim. So you have to watch out. Sometimes people purposely, when like Mary in my classes, I put something up, she goes, "Oh God, this is horrible, this is bad, this is," and the thing is, they do that automatically with everything that they do, because they're addicted to the feeling that everybody goes and goes, "Oh no, it's not bad, it's wonderful." And so their ego gets boosted, and they're addicted to that feeling. So they're constantly being negative, negative, negative. And then that whole process starts to becoming a whole addiction thing. So you kind of have to see if you're involved with that. But we all want to look good, and we have a fear of looking bad, and we operate that way. Yeah, and the thing is, as an instructor, it's really hard to know where that journey begins and ends. I've had students that go, "Okay, I don't care, just I want to be a great artist, just rip into me." And then I rip into them and they drop out because they can't really handle it. Because it's like, you can't handle the truth.
That's the part I can't
Yeah.
handle.
But I think
But the thing is to be,
the whole thing with, I really think it's something really important to form a relationship with, this criticism, positive or negative.
and not take it personally.
Yes, because everyone has an opinion. I like blondes, I like brunettes, I like realistic, whether it's positive or negative, it's somebody else's, what they like. And I believe, for me, I'm like really trying to create just a distance to that I want to develop my own style, and I want to see what that is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That is what my mind does when I take the brush and put the paint on the canvas. And it never turns out how I see it in my head, so I'm looking to see what my style is. And being able to create distance between any type of positive or negative critique is something I'm really I'm practicing, so that it can be a personal journey. And I'm only going to really listen to people like Stefan that actually know who I am and what I'm.
Well, but also what you have to find out too is that there are instructors and there are teachers, and then there's coaches. And see, I try to be a coach, and so I look at you, your ability, where you're at, and your accomplishments, and I know where your issues are. And so when I coach or give a critique, I stay within that reasonable space that I know you are at. When you go to the plein air convention, 2 people twice got critiqued at the plein air convention because they have a big room and they hire 3 artists, and those 3 artists pretty much don't know anybody that's in the room, and they're really caught up in their ego about being a coach, and they have no idea, because a lot of them don't teach, especially as many people as I do. And believe me, I have made huge mistakes in my observations with working with people and having higher expectations of people or where they're at. So some people watch me coach and they'll go, "How did you let that slide with that artist?" And I go, "Because that artist isn't ready to hear that information yet. They need more information to understand that." Twice at the plein air convention, I saw people really upset after the critique throw their stuff in the car and saying they're quitting. They were going to leave the convention because they went through a critique and they felt like they were being humiliated, publicly. And that's really hard to do. And very few people can do that. So I immediately turned around and said, "You have to get that they don't know you and they don't know where your boundaries are." I said, "Can I see your painting?" That they were critiquing. And then what I did was I said, "What did they say?" And then I reformulated what they said so it would be not an attack at them, but as a constructive criticism. So I'm always trying to stay on that edge. But it's really difficult. So one thing that we have all in common is that we have language. We're all the same. We know what love is, we know what hate is. Our definitions might be different if we had to express ourselves, but we kind of know subconsciously when you say, oh, mother's love. You may have never had a mother, but you kind of know what that is. Or being in love, you know what that is. There's a certain language that we have that we've developed through evolution. 10,000 years of going from cavemen to who we are. We know what hot is, we know what cold is, we know what lines are, we know that diagonals are, we know what perspective is. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to communicate. So when I mention the word love, everybody has a different feeling, but it's all kind of in a variation directed towards something. And we spend our whole lifetime trying to explain what that something is. And art is a conversation. It's a visual conversation. So rather than listening to a story, and a story, when all of a sudden you listen to a ghost story, and the ghost story has certain things, like all of a sudden in the middle of the night, when it was all quiet, all of a sudden I heard footsteps. Well, the author is literally playing to what you would think too. He can bring you down to that moment. Somebody who watches this, and that's why I love listening to music scores. If you listen to John Williams, he knows how to manipulate a music score so you almost feel like a dinosaur's running through a thing. So you can, and Mozart and Beethoven, all these artists, like the sound of Beethoven's Fifth is like the devil banging at your door. Bum, 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 bum. It's all the same. Moonlight Sonata is actually an homage to love. And we love it, we don't know why. But somehow it makes us feel something that's in all of us. And you can't help but listen to the Moonlight Sonata and get into a space that everybody else gets into when they listen to it. So we have a common language. And so as artists, what you need to do is you need to submerge yourself into what that language is. How can I reach out to talk to others and make them feel what I'm feeling? And one of my exercises that I do with beginning students, and some of you did that who've ever signed up with coaching, is that I have you actually visualize 5 years from now you're going to have a one-woman show at the Metropolitan Museum, or a one-man show in the Metropolitan Museum. Now go in there with everyone else, but don't look at the walls because we don't know what that is. But try to visualize what the people are feeling. What my whole basis with painting is, what is it that you're trying to say, and whether or not they get it. It's all a conversation. It's visually. And if you don't tune into that, then you're basically wallpaper. You're just decoration. But if you could actually have people feel, and it doesn't have to be a complicated conversation, but they could feel the time of day, the grandeur, the awe. They can feel your brushstrokes, your emotions, how you put paint on the canvas. These are communication skills that visually we tune into. The spiral is something that was big in the 60s, to keep people, and when you stare at a spiral, you're stuck with it. And if you adopt that into a painting, people will still get that kind of thing. People are programmed to see lights and shadows a certain way. How you manipulate it, you become a Spielberg. And you know how to make somebody laugh, and you know how to make them cry in a minute, because you play on those emotions, and all those emotions are all the same for all of us. We're all unique, but yet we're all the same. If you'd like to try coaching for yourself, whether you're a beginner or an advanced painter, please don't hesitate to give me a call at 415-606-9074. Join us on our website at www.thegrandview.org and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting.